This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
Sponsored by Brian's Heating and Cooling.
Brian's Heating and Cooling, where they take your comfort personally. Give them a call for all your commercial and residential comfort needs. 803-796-1788 or briansheatingandcooling.com.
Antoine Dushko breaks away at the 30, 20, going for the pylon at the 5, dives for it. Call it. Touchdown, Carolina.
Football Friday on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Welcome in to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, here on your Football Friday on the Game. Tyler West and Chris along with you, getting you set for South Carolina and Missouri. Again, coming up tomorrow at 3:30 out in the other Columbia, playing for that beautiful Mayor's Cup that we're all so excited for. I know it's such a big deal.
Have you seen the Mayor's Cup?
I don't even know what it looks like.
It's nice.
It's got to be in a closet somewhere out there in Mizzou, right? Like,
all I gotta say is they're definitely the other Columbia.
Oh, for sure.
Ooh. Do you think they see themselves as the real Columbia?
How could they?
There you go, Tyler.
Speaking of this, Bill and Preston talked about it. I brought it up a little bit earlier. Has this rivalry, I don't even want to call it a rivalry, has this series with Missouri taking on a little bit different identity since Eli Drinkwitz has got there? Because you go through the first handful of years, you had Gary Pinkel, you had Barry Odom, a little bit back and forth. You know, South Carolina won a handful of games, but since Drinkwitz has been there, and Drinkwitz even got one over on South Carolina when he was at App State, since he's been there, South Carolina has been able to get over that hump, and he's this, like, annoying coach that takes shots and is kind of arrogant, and, like, it just feels like it's taken on a different degree since he's been there.
I don't know if it's the degree, like, it's not the way I think of a rivalry. It's more along the lines of, I hear people, these are not my words. I hear other people say that Eli is like a punchable dude. Like, that's just the way he looks. Again, not my words, but I think you look at it for South Carolina fans, it's just been like, man, those guys beat us again. Like, there's
4 years in a row.
Yeah, and that's maybe the way, like, when Spurrier got it rolling, there's probably a lot of other traditional SEC schools that are like, man, we're still better than South Carolina. But then you look and South Carolina beat them 3 years in a row. So that's the way South Carolina fans, I feel like, look at Missouri. Like, why we've been in this conference longer. Why should they be in a position to be better than us? Is the way I feel like South Carolina fans feel.
Yeah, it's a combination. Terry Ford was actually asking me about this earlier off there, about Drinkwitz and kind of why South Carolina fans dislike him so much. I don't know. Like, is he that high on the scale for Gamecock fans?
No, I feel like he's just risen very quickly. It's been a
quick ascension.
Yes.
Well, and that's what I told Terry.
Meteoric rise on the hate list.
Like, he's not, for some, he's not the most likable guy, number one. And I'll give more things that I have heard that are not my opinion.
He's pesky.
Pesky.
He gets on your nerves.
A little geeky.
Yeah. Preston described him as a actually kind of guy. Like
That's a good one.
Your cousin at family Christmas that has to correct you on everything that you say, that type of person.
Oscar from The Office.
Yeah. Actually. Oh, there you go. Perfect example.
I miss Preston. I wish he was in here with us. Preston just has, like, I never would have thought about that. I never would have thought to say it that way, but it's true.
Perfect description.
Well, actually,
he is.
Actually, this analytic tells us that you should go for it on fourth down here.
Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty long press conference the other day, and I watched it, and you're kind of like, some of those things, and it's not like overt, but it's there. So, but I think it's that some of the, like, he's got a prickly personality. You've also lost 4 straight games. Like, if Carolina had won the past 4 years, or like 3 out of the past 4, everybody's just like, I mean, yeah, that guy's kind of annoying, but whatever, who cares?
Even if you split them in half,
who cares? And then, like, Missouri, you feel like they're kind of an outsider, I mean, they are to the conference.
That's the running joke is, Missouri's in the SEC.
Yeah.
Well, have y'all been to Missouri, to the stadium before?
No. Nope.
You have? It doesn't feel like an SEC stadium either, is the other thing. Like, it's not just they're an outsider, like they're I guess they're not even really new anymore, but it just doesn't feel like an SEC. Most SEC schools, except for Vanderbilt, you go and you can just pick a random SEC stadium on a random Saturday and go, and you're going to see, I know everybody fights about who has the best atmosphere, but you're going to see a great college football atmosphere compared to, like, the rest of the college football world. Missouri, it doesn't.
And we were there in probably one of the best, the 2013 game.
Yeah, I was there.
You and I were both there.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the better ones. It did get loud at some points. There was a really good Missouri team, really good South Carolina team. So that was kind of one of the peaks.
That dang camera angle that they have out there bothers me more than it should, probably.
Describe it for those.
Yeah, I don't want to notice things like that.
I do.
Feel like.
And maybe it's my production mind, but watching a game at Missouri, they have, I don't know if it's where they position the camera, but it's like off center to where they're pointing it more towards the right or to the left, or it's like lower too. It's hard to describe.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe it's the way the stadium's set up.
The stadium,
the middle of the stadium, but like the camera is not the same as like if you're watching literally any other college football game. And
now this is going to bother me.
That bugs me more than it should. Pay attention to it tomorrow.
I don't want to.
No,
I don't want to.
I wish you wouldn't have told me, because I probably, I might have noticed it in the past and just not thought of it, but now every time I look at it.
It bugs me every time.
By the way, Columbia, South Carolina, founded 1787. Columbia, Missouri, 1821.
Boom.
Other Columbia.
W.
Wow.
This Columbia needs another type of W tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, in a bad way.
Apparently, the mayors actually award the Mayor's Cup too, which is what, is there a ceremony?
I don't think so.
It'd be fun. It'd be funny if one of the mayors pulled a WWE. He's holding the other guy's hand up and then he hits him with the cup.
I will say this, Georgia and Georgia Tech play for the Governor's Cup, and literally what happens in the locker room after game is the governor comes in and hands the trophy to the coach, and that's
Georgia.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, to Georgia. Yeah. So I imagine it's probably somewhere along the same. Hey, here's Mayor whatever of whatever the Columbia mayor's name is. Here's your trophy for the year. All right, staffer, go put this in a closet somewhere until next year.
But if you win it, the opposing coach, or not the opposing, whichever coach wins it is definitely we're thrilled to get the Mayor's Cup.
Oh, of course. Sure.
Probably not a super prominent display, though.
Just like when ADs hire a coach, and that's their guy. We got our guy. Well, I heard about 3 other guys turned you down, but sure. Okay, whatever you say.
Mayor's Cup. Does anybody outside of this game know about the Mayor's Cup?
I didn't know anything about it until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, this is an important game.
Yeah.
Not because of a very bland random trophy. It's an important game because every single year, if South Carolina wants to have a good year, the last couple of years, I guess maybe goes against this, but it's really how do you do against kind of the like-minded programs, or I should say the programs that have similar talent as you. So can you beat Kentucky? Can you beat Missouri? Just kind of on a year in, year out basis. Now, I think this is a pretty freaking talented Missouri offense, and probably more talent over there than we are used to seeing them have, which I think is scary. And, I don't have quite as good of a feel about their defensive personnel, but they always get after you. They always tend to kind of get some underrated guys on defense, I feel like, and develop them. And that's been across multiple coaching staffs is the interesting part about that. The other interesting thing, going back to what we were talking about with Drinkwitz, there were a lot of Gamecock fans that would have liked to have Drinkwitz as South Carolina's offensive coordinator back when Muschamp was here, and he was still an OC rising up the ranks before he got the App State head job for 1 year, right? He was only there for a year and then was out of there. So there are some kind of interesting, lingering connections. And going back to he comes to Williams-Brice and wins with App State against South Carolina. I'll be curious to see, now that he has this extra firepower compared to maybe some of these other years, does he take his same approach to beating South Carolina as we've seen before, which is kind of a lot of times been, we're just going to not make mistakes and almost let South Carolina beat itself? Or is he going to say, look, we're at home. I've got my quarterback dialed in now. I've got great skill around him. But let's just go play our game and be bold on special teams and do those things as well.
Well, if you go back and look at Missouri's game against Kentucky, it was a weird game. You look at the final score. What'd they win by?
38-21. So, 17
points.
They're getting hammered in the first quarter.
I remember seeing, and this was a perfect post on Twitter, somebody said, I think it was our guy Gabe DeArmond from Power Mizzou. He said, I have never, this is as dominant as you could be against a team. He Missouri was thoroughly dominated, and you're down 14-0. Even going into the fourth quarter, it was a 1-point game. I think Missouri was up 21-20, right? And then just some weird things happened in the game. They're down 14-0. They try the fake punt. Punter just throws a screw-it ball up in the air. And it's honestly really bad coverage. DB, the guy covering the gunner who ended up catching the ball didn't get his head around. He high-pointed the ball. Wasn't very good coverage.
But can you expect him to have good coverage there? I feel like...
No. But, even with the ball in there, it wasn't... It wasn't a great play.
I feel like that's the beauty of that play, though, if you have the guts to do it.
Pays off.
I'm sitting there, if I'm the guy covering the gunner on the outside, who is a wide receiver in this case, I'm thinking, if the ball's in the air, I'm thinking it's a punt. Your head, you're not even seeing what the punter's doing. So... I'm surprised you don't even get maybe PIs on that play, because you're going to be hitting the guy thinking, you're not thinking, because he threw the ball so high.
That's a really good spiral on that punt. Wow.
Yeah.
He aired it out.
You're in a helmet. You're trying to run step for step with this guy, split seconds, and all of a sudden the ball's in the air, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second.
Well,
he's catching this thing.
I would say maybe it's you're paying attention to the reaction of okay, it looks like he's trying to catch this ball as opposed to if he's running down the field to cover this punt. I imagine, paying attention to the body language is obviously going to be a little bit different. Maybe that's kind of your cue there.
Yeah, but it's
I know it happens fast, obviously.
It's a gutsy call.
It was very gutsy, and it paid off. You catch the ball, you score. So now you're back in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you look really dumb if you call it though and it misses.
And that woke up the rest of their team, and they outscored them 31-7 down the stretch after that.
Yeah, 31-7, and a big factor later, especially as the game went on, fourth quarter, turnovers. Ray Davis had a good game. Wes texted me during the game. Ray Davis is really good. Or after the game, you were watching the film. He is, right? Kentucky dominated early. It was a tight game going into the fourth quarter, but then the turnovers piled up. Kentucky had a fumble. Just a guy trying to get extra yards. Missouri pops it out. Devin Leary had a couple picks. Brady Cook threw just one pick. And so they won the turnover margin. And so it went from a game you're losing to a close game to, frankly, a blowout in the last part of that game.
Absolutely. We will hear from Coach Beamer a little bit later on what he had to say last night on Carolina Calls. But coming up next, It's our favorite segment of the week. It's time to buy and sell here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
Former Navy SEAL Mike Ritland keeps it real on the Mike Drop podcast. Former Navy SEAL and current CrossFit King Dave Castro.
Is there one thing that you took away from the SEAL community that you apply kind of in your everyday life?
Here's the reality. So getting out was a no-brainer. Financially able to provide for my family much better with CrossFit than I was with the Navy. But if it hadn't been for CrossFit, I for sure would have stayed in for 20. I loved what I did.
Mike Drop. Raw, unfiltered, intellectually sound. Wherever you listen.
Football Friday, sponsored by Brian's Heating and Cooling on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And welcome back in to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you on this Football Friday. A little bit of a rainy Friday. Finally got some rain coming through here. Gonna be a nice weekend, though. Of course, we're all gonna be locked inside watching college football all weekend. But hey, that's the life that we chose to live, and I'm okay with it. Wes is proudly holding up a piece of paper. Are you excited for buy or sell, Wes?
I am always excited.
Hold on.
For buy or sell.
Hold on. We got to do the intro. We got to do it properly. It's time for our favorite segment of the week. It's time for buy or sell.
Brought to you by Kendall Walsh. Tell you more about her in a little bit. My paper is torn because this is also where we put our Firehouse order yesterday.
That's right.
So
Thank you for your sacrifice.
Yes, where the bottom of it is. I do wonder if anyone else had this, if they could read it at all. Probably not. But
is it like scribbly?
Very scribbly. But anyway, let's get down to it. I have a habit of making this segment run long, so let's get down to it. Question number 1, buy or sell. South Carolina will score its most points away from Williams-Brice Stadium this year. I've done the research for you.
Okay. Thank you.
17 in Charlotte, 14 in Athens, and 20 in Knoxville. Buy or sell, South Carolina will score more than 20 points, essentially. It's been very different for this offense on the road versus at home. Some of that's matchup based, but some of it, not really.
I'll buy it.
Oh, Tyler, straight buy-in.
Not much hesitation.
I know. Well, technically we all already have picks.
Yeah, we already made our pick score, so mine is above that. So
mine is as well. So I am buying.
I'm selling.
Ooh, Christopher. Why?
I don't think South Carolina is going to score more.
No, show your work. I already know what he's going to say. They are not going to be able to play well enough up front against Missouri's front to give Rattler time or Mario Anderson room to operate.
Thank you for doing my work for me. That's kind of
pretty close.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah, I think Missouri controls things offensively, moves the football, eats some clock, kind of limits South Carolina's opportunities. And the play up front is still too much of a question against this Missouri defense for me.
All right, try to get a little bit more creative this week, y'all.
Okay.
The battle of former D2, former walk-on running backs. Bonus question. Where did Cody Schrader go to school before Missouri?
I feel like I used to know this.
You know, I almost looked this up this morning.
Me too. I've almost looked it up five times.
I'm just going to say Division II. It doesn't matter where he went, but I guess it does.
The fine folks at Truman State are very upset with you right now.
I wish you wouldn't have said it. I seriously came up with it right before. I was going to say, like, Trumont, though, or something. Like, I was going to be close.
Do we know what the Truman State mascot is?
I do have another layer to this question in case y'all said instantly, oh, Truman State, of course. Where is Truman State?
Kansas.
Nebraska.
It's in Missouri.
Is it Missouri?
It's in the grand metropolis of Kirksville, Missouri. Did y'all also know that Cody Schrader, who ended up at Truman State somehow, in his high school career rushed for 6,800 yards and 99 touchdowns?
It's pretty good.
How? Anyway.
Do we know what classification he was playing at in high school?
I didn't do that research.
Okay. Because, I mean, if he's like at 1A and
it's the only fact
Missouri.
that he doesn't have about
almost 100 touchdowns.
It's pretty good.
Crazy. That's 25 touchdowns a season in high school.
By the way, Truman State is the Bulldogs. It's pretty.
Oh, come on.
If we're getting D2, let's get weird with it.
Exactly.
You know? Give me a bow weevil at Arkansas Monticello or something like that.
Yes, good pull. Mario Anderson will rush for more yards than Cody Schrader. Buy or sell. Who wants to go first?
I'm going to sell it.
Chris, selling it. Straight selling it. Tyler, what you feeling, man?
I'm also going to sell. Missouri's offensive line was named to the Joe Moore honorable mention list or a midseason award list. So they're basically on the watch list for the Joe Moore Award. So
are they really?
Yeah, they are.
The best trophy in college football.
The best trophy in college football. They are in the running for it.
You know what, guys? I'm going to go straight. Homer. I had, Mario Anderson one-on-one Garnet Trust interview a couple weeks ago. He was fantastic. He cuts half the team's hair now as well. I can't go against Mario Anderson. Okay. Super Mario, buying. Complete homer pick and even...
That's not to say he can't have a good game on Saturday. I just think that Cody Schrader's going to have a few more yards.
Haters. So, all right. So, Missouri, it has been confirmed, has decided to completely copy South Carolina's special teams approach. I have decided.
Yes.
So, this is going to be another one of those interesting special teams games. South Carolina will win the special teams battle, however you define that.
Oh.
So, we don't even actually keep record next week of what our record is. So, this is more for fun than anything. Like, it can be defined however you want. But Gamecocks will win the special teams battle, buy or sell. And I will say this. They're going to have to, is my real answer to this. They're going to need to win the turnover battle and the special teams battle. And if they do, they'll have a shot to win this game. But I think that's a key factor in this. And I think somebody might win our Lawyer Lisa touchdown.
$700 up for grabs, by
contest
the way. Or 1075thegame.com and register.
Well done. One of the sides is going to try to pull something on the other.
For sure.
Whether it hits or not, we'll find out.
For how up and down this season's been at special teams, I feel like they're due for a good day, right? Like, just all the way around, I'll buy it.
I think you use the factor, if you're Pete Limbo, of, hey, guys, this is what we do. Like, they adopted the dark, but we were born in the dark.
Exactly.
This is what we do if you're South Carolina special teams. And nobody is copying our style and beating us at our own game. So
I just pictured Pete Limbo as Batman. I'm sorry. That's really funny to me.
We got an interesting brain.
That'll be a new meme. And instead of the one where he's got the
bat mask on.
The lasers coming out of the eyes, it'll be a Batman.
That's what I'm going to think of as South Carolina scoring their special teams touchdown this week. And somebody out there is celebrating.
If they score the touchdown this week, I will buy him a Batman mask myself. And if y'all tell me how to hand deliver it to him.
Somebody can buy him one with their $700 that they win from Lawyer Lisa.
That's right.
Yes.
All right.
Chris is selling. I can already tell.
Almost against my better judgment.
The look in his eye.
Almost against my better judgment, I'm buying. Let me now. Luther Burden is very scary, very aggressive.
He's got a grown man name in Luther too.
Yes, like Luther Vandross. The thicker kicker, Harrison Beavis. He can hit him from a long way. A little inconsistent. Did they also? I think they also have an Australian punter.
I think they have.
No, they do not.
But they have two punters? No, that was last week. Last week they had two punters.
I feel like, no, they had two kick returners, I think. I think this week, maybe. But anyway, no, they have an American punter because Limbo was like, this is like the first.
That's right. He said it was over.
He's like, imagine that.
All right, anyway, I don't know. It has no bearing.
But he can throw it.
His nationality has no.
He can throw it.
He'll throw it very high in the air. I am going to buy it, though, because I do feel like a lot of talk about Kai Kruger working on some fundamental things in practice. Mitch Jeter's still really steady. I feel like South Carolina's due. So just gut feel. I think they'll have a little bit of a better special teams day.
All right. Spencer Rattler. There's kind of a theme in all these, I guess, in that it's kind of that position group versus that position group. Brady Cook has been very, very good this year, and again has a great receiving core around him. Spencer Rattler will throw for more yards than Brady Cook by herself. Gamecocks could be playing from behind.
That's true.
But also there could be a lot of pressure on Spencer Rattler.
Yeah. I personally feel like they're going to be playing from behind for at least a good portion of this. I'm going to buy.
Buy-in? Chris, where you at on this? I wish I had done the research on Brady Cook's numbers each game, like the breakdown.
I can give them to you.
Each week. You got them in front of you?
Can you give them to them in less than 60 seconds?
Yes, I can. 175, 411, 395, 341, 356, 204, 172.
It's a lot.
All over the place. But,
it's a lot, but Rattler, I feel like, throws for 300 every week.
Went for 411 against LSU in a loss. That game was a shootout. Vandy, 395. Memphis, 341. Just 175 last week. I'm buying. Spencer Rattler goes over.
Okay, I'll buy too. Do we need to get a break?
Is there any more?
Well, the final one.
Okay, we can have the final one coming up. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on a Football Friday. Wrap up buy or sell coming up here on the game.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by.
We're all juggling life, a career, and trying to build a little bit of wealth. The Brown Ambition Podcast with host Mandy and Tiffany the Budgetnista can help.
I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm here to tell you what I would do, which is I ain't filing for bankruptcy. Unless I owed $1 million, something crazy, then I'm like, if that makes sense. People be filing for bankruptcy for some old $10,000. No, there are other alternatives to filing for bankruptcy that won't curtail your ability to make money. You want to know some of them? Here you go. There's credit counseling.
Brown Ambition.
Wherever you listen. At Southern Company, we know the right solutions start with the right questions. Like, how do we deliver clean, reliable, affordable energy for today and tomorrow? Southern Company, building the future of energy.
I love Chevrolet. On your home of the Gamecocks. In Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Well, welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you. Football Friday getting you set. The Gamecocks and the Tigers coming up tomorrow at 3:30, which you can listen to right here on the game. As always, on Thursday nights, Coach Beamer, Carolina Calls, giving us his last thoughts before the game coming up on Saturday. And last night, talked a little bit about the injury situation heading into Saturday and gave an update on Vershawn Lee.
Yeah, you're right. That move was really good for us. Calmed things down a little bit on the offensive line. Proud of Trey Jones. Proud of Vershawn being our starting center and being willing to move to right tackle and be excited about it. Nick Gargiulo moving into center. Goes back to what I said, great young men that we have on our team. Trevon Ball probably had his best game of the year at the right guard position, treated some good things. So it was good to see that. And when Vershawn was not able to play in the second half, that certainly affected us. He will not play Saturday. Vershawn won't. The positive is initially we thought it was going to be a 4 to 6 weeks type thing. Found that out on Sunday night initially, which was not the way.
No, you looked in postgame like it was more than 4 to 6 weeks.
And then we were told initially on Sunday night at practice that we thought it might be a month-long thing, and it was one of those, you got to be kidding me. But we found out yesterday that it's more likely 2 weeks, so I think Vershawn would be questionable for next week, and certainly very, very probable for whoever we play after that. And other than that, we're actually pretty good. We were concerned about Mario after the game. Mario is fine. He's practiced all week. Stone Blanton got banged up in the game. He's done a little bit more in practice each day this week. He should be good by the time we get to Saturday. So really coming out of the Florida game, because that was a long, hard, physical game. Other than Vershawn, we came out of it in pretty good shape.
As I look out at a damp Gervais Street, when it rains, it pours. Another injury on the offensive line. Optimistic that Vershawn Lee can hopefully come back pretty soon, but again, that offensive line seemed to be clicking on Saturday. Then you lose him, and now it's back to the drawing board again.
You know, and Dow Loggins talked about this on Wednesday, and I think we all kind of felt the same way. But to hear the OC confirm it, he said, "Look, this is the best we thought our O-line looked, pass pro and in the running game for the first half on Saturday." So you kind of made a bold decision there to shift things around and shuffle it as much as they did. It appeared to pay off, and now you're almost right back to square one. Now I would imagine Trey Jones stays in there, like they'll keep that aspect of this. But Beamer was asked after that, who are your options, and he mentioned it's kind of the same guys it has been: Sidney Fugar, Tyshawn Wanamaker, Ja'Kai Moore, also an option. My expectation is it's going to continue to be Sidney Fugar at this point.
I was going to say, he also threw a new name in, not from a starting perspective, but for depth, in Jatavius Shivers, somebody that's obviously also a true freshman. Like, you don't want to get to the point where you're playing 3 true freshmen on the offensive line, but from a depth standpoint, again, you're getting towards the bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah, and how about the interesting note that Kason Henry, they thought he might be back this week, this game, not quite there yet. And I still, you can't, let's be real about it. You can't count on him coming off of an injury. Still not this super experienced guy. Let's be fair. You can't expect him at the midway point of the season just be like, oh, this guy's going to be our savior on the offensive line. That's not fair to him. That's not a fair expectation. But it truly sounds like they could get him back next week. So Vershawn is already questionable for next week. I don't know. Is there a chance Kason Henry is going to A&M starting? Maybe so. That's a tough ask, but already, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but that A&M front is,
they live in the backfield.
Yeah, so you needed Vershawn for that game, probably even more so than this week, man. So that's tough, but that's a problem for another week, clearly. And Kason, I would think as this year goes on, if he really is going to be 100%, he's going to factor in there at some point as well. And then for Shivers to be getting that praise, and it was without being asked about him, that's a good sign, man. This entire O-line class may be a hit. For what I understand, he has just really worked hard. Like you never know about work ethic of guys when they come in. He's been a really, really hard worker, and is obviously a big kid. And so that could be another hit in this class, which I think we already see what Tree and Tro are doing. Marky Anderson was going to play before he got hurt. Gargiulo has obviously been an evaluation hit. And, if he's a hit as well, that's a heck of an O-line class.
Well, and then let's not give up on Sidney Fugar's future, right?
Yes.
Like, again, this is probably was not supposed to be playing this year. So you've still got some young guys. Kason Henry, the North Carolina game was his 3rd career game or something like that, and he was the starter.
He played 4 snaps.
He played 4 snaps. He missed the whole spring, a lot of the summer, and much of the preseason, and was good enough to go win that job. Now you obviously we're still working on some solutions that help things along. But yeah, they've got to get healthy at that position. But one of my questions is, whatever iteration we see of the O-line, does Dowell Loggins feel like they can still utilize some of the running schemes that they used against Florida to success? The answer is probably yes, as long as your guards are the same. That's the biggest, kind of tweak. They felt like with Trey Jones and Trayvon Ball, being able to move and operate in space in the run game, they felt like they could do that. I think you would like to keep that aspect because there were some good things that they did against Florida in the run game.
Yeah, I would think you'll continue to see South Carolina doing that. I would imagine it did give you. Now you've got the aspect of, hey, now Missouri's seen that on tape. They're going to rep it this week. Can you layer something else on top of that? We've already seen them doing that a little bit, just within the confines of the Florida game, running some play action passes off of those similar looks offensively. We've gradually seen a little bit more under center, a little bit more pistol. Like, this offense has built as the year has progressed, which I think is what you want. It's just, it's one kick to the gut after another.
And Vershawn Lee, obviously being the center, was the leader of this offensive line. Obviously, we talked about the center being the quarterback of the offensive line, but also his experience itself. It was just so helpful for everybody else around him. And now, I mean, Nick Argiulo's that guy, and obviously he has not been at South Carolina for the past couple of years, but he's played a lot of football in his time at Yale. Obviously a very experienced guy and somebody that came in and earned the trust of everyone pretty quickly, it seems like. So now, for however long Rashawn Lee is out, he's that guy on the offensive line.
Yeah, and he's got that natural kind of leadership aura that some guys have. So I think it's been a very easy transition with him. You know, when he came in and talked to us in the offseason, it was just apparent, right? Like, this guy has a great personality, hard worker. We were told back in the spring, hey, this guy might be our best blocker, like, just pure best blocker on the team, even coming in from Yale. So I think for him, that's probably an easy transition, but it's not easy for anybody to change positions mid-go. And so he slides inside the center. You had Rashawn sliding out to right tackle. But it did. The interesting thing we've heard Beamer and Dowloggins say multiple times this week is letting a guy with the knowledge that Rashawn has slide out to right tackle kind of helped Tro Ball a little bit, having him right beside him.
He said he had his best game this season.
So he, but some of that is just probably Ball getting those reps, getting time, and getting comfortable. I mean, that dude looks the part, man. Like, he is a thick-bodied, wide-bodied kid. So yeah, we'll see. But right tackle has just been the Achilles heel.
I don't know if you guys read Harry Potter. It's the defense against the dark arts teacher. If something bad happens to them every year, that's right tackle for Carolina. Sorry,
shake my head. Yes,
that was a little bit of a nerdy pull there, but
deep cut.
Yeah.
Some people are listening, going, "Yeah, that's right."
That makes sense.
And some people are listening, going, "What is he talking about?"
Hey, I read a lot as a kid. Okay,
it's good. That's why you're so smart now.
I try and be. We'll hear Coach Beamer's keys to the games, and we'll give our score predictions coming up. It's Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
Football Friday, sponsored by Brian's Heating and Cooling on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And welcome back in. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you for a few more minutes for turning things over to myself and Elijah for today's edition of the halftime show. And then Jay and Terry drive you home with the afternoon show as Football Friday rolls on. We'll give our thoughts and our keys to the game in just a moment here. But let's hear what Coach Beamer had to say last night on Carolina Calls about his keys to this game tomorrow.
Yeah, we got to protect the football. Winning on the road is hard anywhere, but especially in this conference. And, we've got to do a good job of taking care of the ball and protecting the quarterback. And when I say take care of the ball, that's also we need to create some takeaways. And that's one thing that we didn't do on Saturday was create any turnovers and get the ball back for our offense. And we've talked to our defense about that. And the offense knows that Missouri did a great job of taking the ball away from Kentucky on Saturday night up in Lexington. So turnover battle is always big, and we'll be big on this one. And then they've got their special teams as always too. I mean, we need to make a play there. They're dangerous in the return game. They faked a punt the other night, but Luther Burden is as talented as any receiver in this league, and he's also their punt returner. So when we punt the football, we've got to do a great job of protecting, but then also getting downfield and being able to tackle him also, and not giving them any explosives in the return game. And certainly defensively against Florida, one stat that's been pretty consistent, I think, since I've been the head football coach, is when we win the explosive play battle, our record is really, really, really good. And explosive plays meaning a run over 12 and a pass over 18. And we had a bunch of them offensively against Florida, but unfortunately we gave up way too many of them against Florida. So we've got Missouri's explosive on offense. They're going to hit some big plays Saturday, but we just got to limit the number of explosives that they hit and make sure we can create some also.
A lot of good keys there, and one that he touched on in the very beginning was obviously winning the turnover battle, which is important in any game. But Missouri, for the most part, is doing a good job of taking care of the ball. However, Brady Cook in the last two games does have 3 combined interceptions, 2 against LSU and then 1 against Kentucky last weekend.
Yeah, and I think those are his only 3 picks of the year.
That's correct.
And he looked a little out of sorts early on against Kentucky, and Kentucky took advantage. And, I always look at games like, all right, for Team A to win, are they going to need turnovers, or can you still win a game by losing the turnover battle? Or I looked at the Florida game, and I even made the comment, like, if they just play it sort of even, I think South Carolina can win the game. Well, it ended up being a very even game. There were no turnovers throughout until the late pick by Rattler, of course. So I look at this game, though, you say, what could turn this thing in South Carolina's favor? And always in the game of football, I think you talk about turnovers, winning that battle, and you talk about forcing field goals while scoring touchdowns. Because I think on paper, Missouri's offense against South Carolina's defense, particularly the passing game, but also Cody Schrader and this offensive line in the running game, it's not a great matchup on paper. So I think when Beamer leads off by saying, got to win the turnover battle, that's not so much him just saying, hey, you can't give the ball away in any game. I think that's him kind of subtly saying, look, we're going to have to steal a couple of possessions to go up there and win this game, because it's never easy on the road, and it has not been easy for South Carolina against Missouri.
Gamecocks have played 3 good teams away from home: North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and they've had a little bit of each in those games. North Carolina, they won the turnover battle 2-0, still lost by a good bit. Georgia, they lost it 2-0. Tennessee, they lost it 2-1. So what do we know? You can't win if you lose the turnover margin, right?
That's right.
And so you not only need to win it, you need to be a +2 or something, like, at least, I think, to be able to stay in this game and have it really competitive. So that's a great point. Also, Beamer talking about explosive plays, that's very important. But we saw last season, Missouri played it pretty conservative, moved the football. So I think you have to be able to tackle and get off the field, too. It's not just about the explosive plays. It's about forcing some third downs, forcing some punts.
Well, on the flip side of things, Missouri has given up a fair amount of explosive plays themselves on defense. So it's an opportunity that South Carolina is definitely going to be looking to attack tomorrow.
I found this interesting from the game notes. Lots of talk last year about the offense and, was it good enough, all this. We don't have to sort of re-talk about that. But South Carolina scored in the first quarter just 6 times out of 13 games last year. So far, under Dow Loggins, South Carolina has scored a first quarter touchdown in every single game this year, all 6 games. I think, one, that speaks to having a really good game plan. That speaks to giving your offense a chance. And, not obviously they've not played as well on the road, but it's not going to surprise me if South Carolina comes out, has a couple of wrinkles for Missouri, and gives themselves an early chance in this game. We've seen that against North Carolina. We've seen that against Georgia. They're leading at halftime. And, we saw that against Tennessee until the pick 6 completely derailed things. So it's not going to surprise me, even if on paper it's not a good matchup. It's not going to surprise me if we're sitting there going into the half saying, hey, it's 17-14. It's, a tight football game. Can they finish on the road? Can they do better in the second half on the road?
All right, last minute here. How we see this game going tomorrow?
So this is also an extension of our buy or sell that we never hit. But so buy or sell, Chris Clark, does South Carolina win the game? Does South Carolina cover?
Remind me of the line again.
Right now, 7.5.
7.5, okay. I'm going to sell. I have Missouri winning, and I have them winning by more than that margin.
Tyler?
I have Missouri winning, but South Carolina covering. Okay. 7-point difference.
Oh, you're right.
Right on it.
As of right now, I've gone back and forth, but they're about to go live on Gamecock Central anyway, so I guess I'm sticking with it. I have Missouri winning by 8, so
okay,
I'm right on the other side of it.
I think it's going to be a shootout. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored here.
What'd you have?
45-38.
Ooh, boy.
Okay. All right.
That's got to be above the over-under.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit.
It's 50-something.
Grab your popcorn.
I'm here for it. Good show, everybody.
All right, that'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Be back in on Monday to react to what happens tomorrow out in CoMo. Halftime show with myself and Elijah coming up next here on the game.
We're all juggling life, life, a career, and trying to build a little bit of wealth, the Brown Ambition Podcast with host Mandy and Tiffany the Budgetnista can help.
If I do even consider lending, I always ask myself, will this solve the problem? So I know you don't have your money for mortgage because you don't have a job. So what happens next month? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about the next month. Now, it's another thing if you're like, hey, Tiffany, I have $1,000 left to pay off my car, and then I'm car note free, and I'll be able to pay you back, the 3 months I used to pay my car note. That solves the problem.
Brown Ambition.
Wherever you listen.